Welcome to Uncaged, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we are speaking with Noah Kamrat. Hey, Noah, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Bant.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on the show. Noah is the co-founder and CEO of Signalmash. It's a platform company that seamlessly incorporates programmatic voice and messaging into any workflow or app. And certainly that area of voice is a very hot topic in technology today. So we're excited to go into more depth with Noah on that topic in a second. But before we get there, Noah, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Sure. I've had the privilege of really being center stage in the digital communication revolution. I started my career right after I graduated from the University of Oregon in 1994 with Verizon. They were actually called MCI at the time. And I worked in the corporate world, primarily in sales and sales management for 5 years or so. And I learned a lot, but ultimately got frustrated with the politics and bureaucracy and being told no all the time, really. And so, I come from a line of entrepreneurs. My father's an entrepreneur. And so really at age 26 or 27, I started my own company and I never looked back.
Wow. Well, that's great. I mean, I love entrepreneurial stories and, Noah, like you, I started in big companies and found my way into the entrepreneurial world. So, we'll probably say welcome to one another. I think we both made it here.
Yep.
But tell me about what you and the team are working on at Signalmash.
Sure. So, I'm excited about working on a number of things, but mostly I'm excited about building a purpose-driven business. And so to me, that means like transforming the way we engage and communicate with each other and really redefining the definition of success so that it includes not just the balance sheet, but also making a difference in the communities that we live and interact with. So that's why we set Signalmash up as a benefit company.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so I don't know if everyone out there is familiar with benefit company, but
I mean, definitely give us a little bit of an overview.
Yeah. So, don't get me wrong, in a market-based economy, the bottom line is obviously important. We can't do anything unless we make money. But we also believe that we have an obligation to make the world a better place. And where we can make an impact is supporting small and medium-sized businesses, which are really the beating heart of our economy, I believe. And also, we are looking to support organizations either directly or indirectly that are committed to bridging the digital divide. Because if you don't have internet access or a computer, you can't participate in our economy. And, I don't think that's okay.
Yeah. No, I love the area of purpose-driven businesses. In fact, I was speaking with the founders of the Purpose Institute recently. And certainly I would say that whilst people were talking about purpose with businesses maybe as long as a decade ago, over the last couple of years, it's incredible to see how employees, as well as I would say the business landscape, has embraced the thinking and how I would say it has become critical for business today.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I think the paradigm of just looking at the balance sheet is not working for, anybody, or certainly most people.
But tell me a little bit about the Signalmash technology and the solution that you guys are delivering.
Sure. So, today in this sort of digital marketing economy that we have, the way that companies market themselves is primarily through digital advertising. And the reality is that not everybody can pay $200 a click to Google to advertise. And so we understand that traditional forms of communication, like using the phone and text messaging, are critically important to most businesses. And we believe that it's not only important to businesses, but important really for our economy, important for our democracy to make sure that small businesses have the ability to do their business. And in my industry, for example, companies have raised hundreds of millions of dollars and have earmarked millions of dollars in ad spend. And that is not something that is attainable for the vast majority of businesses. So we think of, voice communications and, video and text messaging as being kind of core requirements. And part of it is that they're part of the public telephone network still, and so these products are affordable by definition. So
what exactly, if you could just give me what exactly is programmatic voice and messaging?
Great question. So software, anytime you have software that needs to communicate with other software, which is basically everything, and it needs to make a phone call or send a message, there is a concept which is called an API, which stands for Application Programmable Interface, which basically provides the interconnectivity between different platforms. And so if you're a software developer and you need to be able to make phone calls or send text messages, think, ride sharing, think two-factor authorization and one-time passcode, think keeping track of packages that are tracking or deliveries or appointments or any of that, then you need to be able to send a phone call or send a text message to somebody. The bottom line is that text messaging is still by far the most effective way to get someone's attention.
Right.
If it's urgent and you want to make sure someone gets the message, you need to send them a text message. The challenge is that with all the spam that we have in the world and the amount of noise coming in to your cell phone, both as a voice call and as messaging, people are not necessarily always paying attention. And so we have this sort of dual set of issues, which is one is we want to make sure that the telephone is a viable communication tool for people, but we also want to make sure that it's not being used unlawfully or for spam or, worse, fraud. And so our technology is very much about making sure that only good actors are using our platform, making sure that when people receive messages and phone calls on our platform, they're expecting to get those calls. They've given permission to get those calls, and really restoring.
So would this be like if I'm, how DoorDash uses kind of like as my Chipotle is inevitably late, telling me that it's going to be late. Those
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing a good job. They're always friendly and nice, and that's great.
Yes, and not to suggest that DoorDash is a customer.
Yeah, I understand.
Yes.
No, I understand, and I can imagine. The discussion around voice has been such a hot topic, and it's you're kind of working on two ends of the spectrum here. I feel, which is voice itself is something that's getting almost reinvented as we speak. Every minute it seems to get more sophisticated in what we can be doing. Text messaging, though, is probably the most underutilized channel of all time, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe you're talking to a guy who worked with clients like McDonald's on text messaging back in the late 90s, and found incredible results back then. And I've always been shocked that more companies don't do 100-fold more with text messaging. So, I'd love to kind of ask you about that. There's a lot of focus on the voice space, certainly, with new applications coming out and people trying to incorporate the use of more kind of senses, I suppose. But at the same time, where are we with voice? And then conversely, why isn't text used by everybody?
So let me attack that question in two different stages. So I think the biggest change that we've seen in voice communications is an attempt for the government and the large telephone companies to provide some kind of regulatory framework such that it's not just complete spam all the time, that you're not
Right.
getting we don't want to keep getting another auto warranty message or voice automatic robodial voice call, right? So the industry is trying to stop that kind of activities on the voice network, because the result is that people aren't picking up the phone anymore, even though most people would rather have a phone conversation to their vendor or to their customer or whatever.
Yeah.
But like lots of regulations, sometimes there are unintended consequences. And so what's happening right now is that a lot of calls being made are being incorrectly identified as spam, and companies that have legitimate reasons to call customers and have permission to call customers or employees or stakeholders or even mom and dad sometimes are showing up as being spam when they shouldn't be.
Right.
So this is a huge problem, and we have solutions in order to be able to kind of bridge the know your customer process, but also making sure that these voice continues or becomes again a reliable way to communicate with your stakeholders of the business. And I think messaging, I think it is used by a lot of companies. It's not used as much as it could be used. A lot of it, I think, has to do with everybody wants to have real estate on the phone, right? So there's a lot of in-app stuff going on, and I think that's great, and push notifications are great. But the problem with that is that if it's an urgent message and timely message, the consumer has to have all the right settings on their phone set up in order to make sure that they get that push notification. And so I think companies would be better served by having a secondary kind of backup text to the most important kinds of communication, rather than think of it being a either or. I'm going to have a app that has a push notification that tells you something important, or I'm going to send you a text. It's probably an and. They probably need to have both in order to make sure that important messages are getting delivered properly to people. Also, there's some technology challenges. So companies that are doing tech support, customer service, there are businesses out there that are allowing consumers to contact them through text messaging. And I think most consumers have had a very good experience. I remember when I think it's GE Capital, but I was going to buy out my car I had on lease. And I called them up. It was right in the middle of COVID. And it was like, your 45-minute, 1 hour wait time. But if you want to, get service quicker, you can send us a text. And I sent a text, and I was able to complete my whole buyout information along with an encrypted window to send my personal information to GE Capital. Never had to talk to somebody, and I was able to do that while multitasking, checking my email, in between pauses when the agent was, trying to look up information or whatever. So
well, I'm excited about both of the areas. I love the fact that you're offering voice in a way that is essentially more regulated, transparent, and your technology offers the kind of an ethical way of managing that, which is brilliant. But I also just feel like I don't think my viewpoints will change on that one. I think of there were guys like Bon and Bao talking about text me like 7-8 years ago, and we're all still trying to do more of it, which is great. But tell me a little bit about the last couple of years. It's been a challenging moment for folks, obviously, and on a personal level, it's been challenging, but also on a business level, it's presented challenges and opportunities. And I'd just be curious to hear how Signalmash has worked through the last couple of years of this pandemic.
I think we, and I would say a lot of tech companies, we're kind of well positioned to kind of reinvent ourselves in this sort of new work from home paradigm that we have. And I think the tools that we were already using have now become sort of standard with all kinds of businesses. So we've been working virtual for way before COVID. I mean, technically we have an office, but the reality is that most of us are working out of our homes, and we've been very successful doing that. And so really, I think what COVID's done is it's just kind of caught much of the rest of the world up to us. Now, that doesn't mean that there are certain industries that it's just not viable for them to be working from home, restaurants and, lots of industries. So, I'm cognizant that, we don't necessarily represent even most of business. Most of business has been hurt terribly by the pandemic. And so, but we haven't had the same challenges that a lot of businesses have had because of the nature of what we do. That being said, we are, so we're a benefit company, as I talked about earlier. Yeah. And one of the things that we're very interested in is bridging the digital divide. And I think COVID has really kind of brought out some of those inequities. So if you're, if you don't have access to the internet and you don't have a computer, you are already in a pretty bad situation. But since pandemic, it's gotten that much worse. And so really to participate in society, you need to have, access to the internet. And so we have an initiative right now where we're going to be supporting organizations, both directly and indirectly, that are helping to bridge the digital divide. And I think, so on a business level, I think, because we've been able to navigate these challenging times so well, I feel it makes it even that much more critical for us to think about people who are being left out and how we can do to make a difference. So
it's a really good point you're making, Noah. I felt like a lot of the parents that were sending their kids to private schools in New York City perhaps had no sense of the challenges of what it was like to live in the Bronx or certain areas in Brooklyn and not have internet access or have really limited access. And then you take that and think about it from a national perspective, and it just gets exponentially worse. And it's one of the things that we certainly have to face in society today. It's wonderful to always talk about the bleeding edge of 5G, but I think where my parents live up in Vermont, they'd be happy to still have 1G.
And that's what we need to do. We need to get infrastructure built out to those areas. There's a big problem in rural America with having access to technology, and then because of the way cities are built, there's a big problem in high density urban areas with getting good broadband also. Not to mention the computers that people need in order to have access. A lot of people have phones, but having a child have to do their homework on their iPhone is not what we should be doing, right?
No, absolutely not.
And too many kids are doing just that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, so let's talk about the year ahead. We're now living in 2022. We're living in the future, Noah. What does this year hold for Signalmash and the team, and some of the trends that you see on the horizon?
Well, so Signalmash as a platform was actually released this year. So Signalmash is a new company owned by IP-Link Technologies Group, which owns also IP-Link Telecom, which is the other company that I'm co-founder and CEO of. And we bring many, many years of telecommunications experience to the software concept of CPaaS, Communication Platform as a Service. So I think we're a little bit unique in our background. But that being said, it's all about growing Signalmash and bringing on new customers, bringing on new projects, and really looking for the next Uber. Uber was our biggest competitor is a company called Twilio.
Mm-hmm.
They are the big elephant in the room, and Twilio and through Uber kind of built that whole ride sharing kind of model. And but before they got together, it was just an idea,
Right.
and there are lots of ideas that have not been executed on yet. So we're talking every day to entrepreneurs, to software companies, and really everything is software now. It's just the world is basically software, and so it doesn't matter what industry you're in. So we're talking to entrepreneurs all the time about incredible ideas, and we're excited to be engaging with them on their projects. And these projects will, come into fruition this year and next year. And we're also going to be doing our first Series A financing round this year.
Wow.
We've been IP Link has been basically funding Signalmash as a project. We've been a company since 2009. So we're in a position that we can kind of be the seed round for Signalmash. But in order to really scale it, we're going to need to go out and get, raise capital from the financial community. And so that's also going to be happening this year as well. And, we're going to be hiring more developers, adding new features, building out our platform in scale, and we're really excited about it. And we're gonna and right now a percentage of every dollar that gets spent on Signalmash goes to help fighting climate change, carbon sequestering, really super cool projects. We're gonna start feathering in some of the digital divide stuff. So we're creating a model that when you spend money with us, part of the money that you spend is going to go support really cool causes.
Great. Well, for all of those entrepreneurs that have the next unicorn that need the Signalmash technology, Noah, where can they find you?
Well, obviously the best place is to go to www.signalmash.com. And, all our contact information is there. Feel free to look me up on my LinkedIn profile and send me a message and an invite if you would like to have a conversation. We're excited about the creative process. I'm a musician, and I have come to realize that being in business is not all that dissimilar from music, because in music, good music that I like has improvisation, creativity, and structure, right?
Yeah.
And I think to be successful in business today, you need to have improvisation, creativity, and structure. So they're more similar than people realize. I think there's an art to business, and I think that's kind of where we find our joy in what we do.
I love it. Well, we've been speaking with Noah Kamrat. He's the co-founder and CEO of Signalmash, which is a platform that seamlessly incorporates programmatic voice and messaging into any workflow or app. They're really looking at 2022 as being a year where they're going to be rolling out with various entrepreneurs. So all those people that are developing new concepts, the next Ubers out there, give Noah a shout. And Noah, thank you so much for being on Uncaged today.
Yeah, and thank you for the invite. It was great. It was a great conversation.
We look forward to having you back. Cheers.
Cheers.